All right, it is 11:02, so we will begin. So welcome everyone. My name is Jana Hexter. I work with the Northeastern IPM Center, and it is a beautiful full day here. We have golden leaves and blue skies and sunshine, so quite a treat. And I hope you have the same wherever you're joining us from. This is the number 6 in our toolbox series on ticks, and we've had a really interesting series. If you've missed some of the others, the recordings are available on our website, and I'll be giving you a link to that during this presentation. And this presentation, this toolbox looks like it's going to be interesting for all of us. So with that, I am just going to scroll through a couple of slides with some housekeeping before we move into the content. So recordings of this is going to be available in about a week. We do a little bit of editing, and then I will send you an email with a copy of the recording. It also goes up on our website and will be available. Feel free to share it with others and share the link. This is the link, but you don't need to write it down because you will get an email from me sometime next week. It should take us about a week. We do welcome your questions. This is meant to be interactive. We've put plenty of time in the content for some Q&A, and we ask you to do it in a particular way. It's very hard for us to keep track of the chat, especially if there's a lot of people on the line. So we ask that you use the Q&A feature. So what that means is if you scroll so that the bar for the Zoom shows up for you, you'll see that there's an option there that says Q&A. It's usually about in the middle, and it's 2 little squares, and it says Q&A. If you click on there, you can ask a question. You can make it anonymous if you prefer. And then on our end, we see all of the questions. And so if there are 3 people asking a similar kind of question, I can make sure that I ask that question first, and then I can mark all 3 as being answered. And it helps us to keep track of the questions that come through and that the answers have been given. If we have lots and lots of questions, we may not get to all of them, but we do try. And we have a very knowledgeable expert with us today. So. And our presenter is Dr. Andrew Lee, and welcome, Andrew. Thank you for joining us and bringing a little of Texas with you, I can see on the back of your wall there.
Yeah.
And, so Andrew Lee is a research entomologist with the USDA's Agricultural Research Service, and his research focuses on developing and validating new IPM tools for tick control and Lyme disease prevention. He's a principal investigator for the USDA-funded area-wide tick IPM project, which runs from 2016 to 2021, and I think he'll be presenting some of his research from that today. He also receives funding from the Department of Defense's Deployed Warfighter Protection Program to develop novel tick control, personal protection tools and products, and he's part of the Federal Vector-Borne Disease Integrated Pest Management Working Group. So we have an expert in the house to answer all your questions and share his latest research. So thank you for taking the time to do this and to speak with us today. So before we dive in, we actually have some questions for you. And these are just to give us an idea of who is here and your level of knowledge. It will help Dr. Lee to tailor his presentation to who is on the call today. So you should see a little box has popped up with some polling questions. And when you, I think there's like 6 or 7 questions, and when you've answered them, just hit end, and we will share the results with you. There is a certain combination, mostly to do with iPads, where you may not see the poll pop up on your screen. And if that's true, just ignore this for now. But hopefully you do, and I'll be quiet for a couple of minutes so you have a chance to read through and answer the questions. Great. Okay. I am going to end the poll and share the results. There we go. So we can see that most people are somewhat or moderately knowledgeable. We have 3 other experts on the call, but we have quite a knowledgeable group about host-targeted technologies. Most people have heard of ticks tubes and bait boxes, a little fewer for the 4 posters. Most people have not purchased or used tick tubes on their property, and not had professionals on their property, and have not heard of field studies in their area on the use of full poster devices. And is there anyone conducting community-based work in your area? So, mostly it's don't know, but it's actually a pretty even spread between yes and no and don't know. So great, and then we'll have some questions for you at the end as well. So, so with that, we will move on to a presentation by Dr. Lee. So please take it away.
Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank Gina for the invitation to participate in this IPM Toolbox webinar series. Today, I'm going to talk about the host-targeted tick control, what works, what doesn't, and what's new. Next slide. Well, this is simple, the outline of the presentation. I'll give you a little bit of background on the tick species we have in the Northeast. I'll talk about the white-footed mice and white-tailed deer as the key host for the black-legged tick, which is responsible for the transmission of Lyme disease. I'll talk about the IPM, ITM, integrated tick management concept, host target control as a component of ITM. Then I'll go to each of the products on market we know, the tick tubes and the bait box, which are designed to control ticks feeding on mice. Also, I'll briefly mention, talk about the new products in development. It's a reservoir targeted anti-Borrelia vaccine. It's being developed as a bait to deliver to mice to block the pathogen transmission. Then I'll talk about the deer targeted control products for poster, which was developed by USDA about 20 years ago. And TickLick, I call the new generation of the bait treatment system we're currently working on. Then I'll summarize, talk about the pros and cons of each product, the issues we still have, and where we go from here. Next slide, please. Well, just for those who are not familiar with tick issue we have in the Northeastern regions, and we have three major tick species in area affecting human health: the black-legged ticks, long-throat ticks, and American dog tick. The map on the right-hand side are from a CDC website, and showing the distribution where they are right now, and also list the pathogens each tick species transmit that affect human health. Of course, our focus is the black-legged ticks and Borrelia is transmit called Lyme disease in human. Here also include the slide figure on the Asian longhorn tick. Some of you who attended earlier webinar on the topic. So basically, this invasive tick species was first discovered in New Jersey, I think back to 2017. And last couple of years, this tick had been reported in number of states. I think now total stand at 14 states. And in Maryland, this is summer from our field site, we collect the longhorn tick from multiple field sites, not in a very high number, but looks like it's a more widespread than we thought. Next slide. Well, this again from a CDC website shows where Lyme disease occur. You can see it concentrated in northeastern states and upper Midwest. And each year there are about 30,000 cases Lyme disease reported to CDC. And from a study a couple of years ago, also organized by CDC, looking at the different sources of data, they come up a new estimate, which is 10 times higher than the number we thought, about 300,000 cases per year. This is just highlight the importance the Lyme disease, how that affects American people, and also economically. Next slide. Oh, well, I live in Maryland. Maryland is on the southern edge of the endemic region, I'll say. Not a situation not as bad as in northern states, further north in Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut. There are some numbers from 2000 and 2018, over 25,000 cases of Lyme disease reported in Maryland, and Howard County ranked number 2 in the state of Maryland. So that's where I'm conducting a tick control project. Also, the black-legged tick also exists in the southern states, but you can see there are fewer cases of Lyme disease reported from southeastern states. Next slide, please. Well, we know black-legged tick is responsible for the transmission of Lyme disease from rodent to human, and this particular species really has a very complex life cycle. It takes 2 years to finish 1 generation. It has an immature stage feeding on smaller rodents like white-footed mice, and adult tick prefer feeding on large animals like white-tailed deer. And whenever they get a chance to get on people, that's how we contract Lyme disease from a tick bite. So, well, the immature stage, mostly the nymphs are responsible for disease transmission to human. You can, if you look at the seasonality, the yellow lines really showing the peak season of the nymphs. It started in May, peaking in June, July. Actually, you can see this coincidence with the 2 months, June, July, the peak Lyme disease confirmation. So, talking about tick control to prevent Lyme disease transmission, nymphs are the most important stage. You can see also from figures in fall, their larval season, and winter, early, late fall, winter, late fall, say the October, November, December, that's the peak, the adult season. Again, we have a smaller peak in spring. Next slide, please. Well, deer ticks are very hard to control because they are everywhere. If you go to a park, natural area for hiking, playing, you spend time in garden, and children in summer are going to summer camp or the park playground, even a school playground, you can encounter ticks and get tick bite. Actually, according to Kirby Stafford, his study indicates most tick bite people get really from the people, the backyard. People spend time playing, working in the backyard, and that's where most of the tick bite occur. So tick control really is a very hard thing to do, and we didn't have a magic bullet. Kirby published a handbook, Tick IPM handbook, describing all the things we can do, like a pesticide spray, host targeted control using bait box for posters, and other measures we can take to reduce the tick population, reduce the risk of tick bite and Lyme disease. Next slide. Next slide, please. Well, again, the deer tick live in wild. It's a very complex life history, very complex interaction between ticks and host and the ticks and pathogens. Again, the number hosts the deer tick feed on, but there are well-studied publication indicating white-footed mice not only serve best the host for immature deer tick, but also is the most potent vector for Borrelia. So if we are looking for ways to control ticks by targeting ticks feeding on host, white-footed mice and deer are our choice. If we can achieve tick control by targeting ticks feeding on critical tick host, we can break the life cycle of the deer tick to achieve population suppression. Next slide.
Great, and that's where we have a stopping point for questions. I don't actually see any questions in the Q&A. I see there's something in the chat, but if you have questions, please put them in there using the Q&A feature, which is in the middle of the scroll bar there. And I see someone also raised their hand. So if you have a question, if you can put it in there, and we'll ask it at the next break. So wonderful. All right, well, with that, we'll move on to talking about rodent and rodent control options, and then we'll take another break at the end of that section so we can answer your questions.
Okay, again, I mentioned there are a lot of literature reporting how important white-footed mice as a reservoir for the pathogen, as ideal host for immature black-legged ticks. So I want to show some of the unpublished data from the work I did in Howard County, and you can see it's from year 2017. That's baseline data collection year. You can see on average, over 50% mice are infected with Borrelia. In 2018, about the same, slight decrease, overall 43%. At some park, like David Falls, over 70% of mice we captured were tested positive for Borrelia. Next slide, please. How about the ticks? The top table at the top, showing cresting exotic tick. You can see a variation among sites, but on average, about 14% cresting nymph and adult are tested positive for Borrelia. How about the ticks feeding on mice? The table on the bottom showing the nymphs feeding on mice, about 50% are tested positive for Borrelia, and larvae about 40%. Some location, higher, 60%, 90%. So on average, you can see a significant increase the positive ticks. That's really proof of the pickup of pathogen from infected mice. Next slide, please. So talk about the host target control. There's one product, the tick tube, Daminex tick tube, has been on market, I'll say, for a long time. The first scientific study was published in 1987. So last 20 years, there are number of studies. Well, the tick tube really is a cardbox tube filled stuffed with cotton ball that treated with 7.4% permethrin. Basically, this product is really rely on the natural nesting behavior in single mice. take the nesting material back to the nest. So when they pick up the treated cotton ball and bring to the nest, and then the tick attached to the mice will making contact with the pesticide and they get killed. So over the years, the last 20 years, there are a number of studies on the efficacy of the tick tube, but the results are conflicting. Some showing, worked quite well, reducing ticks on mice, 90%. But our study showing it's not working. So the results are inconsistent and conflicting, I'll say. Next slide, please. There's the most recent study out from New Jersey. They compared the efficacy tick tube, Daminex tick tube with the bait box. Their conclusion, that's a 2-year study. They did find increased use in the late season. They deployed the device product twice in a year, and they found increased use the tick tube and the bait box, and it's a part of the learning process, I guess. But the overall conclusion is that the use of the tick tube have some effect on the larval stage in late season, but overall its effect on the cresting nymph is very limited. It's about a 20–27% reduction compared to untreated side. Next slide, please. Well, there are another products. Well, about the same product made by a different company, Thermacell tick control tube. This is a relatively new company making the tick tube. The principle is the same. This is all from their website showing their marketing the products in many states, and their recommendation how many tube you use based on the acreage, your home site. There is only one publication came out this year, which was studied by Dr. Erica Machtinger at Penn State. It's really a limited, small version study, just a 1 year study with a limited number of animal trapped. So based on this study, you can see the study site deployed with the tick tube, the mouse are clean, no ticks were found. So again, this is a limited version study provide a positive result. Use the tick tube can lead to reduced number of the tick feeding on mice. Next slide, please. So yeah, I did some calculation about the price based on the price that they post on the like Amazon, Home Depot. Tick tube costs probably $3 or $4 per unit. If you buy larger quantity, probably less than $3 to $2.7. So it still costs money. So if you search on internet, there are a number of websites showing how to make tick tube yourself, which use toilet paper rolls and dryer lint, the waste material, and the only thing you buy is just pesticide, do dilution, make a treatment, and make your own tick tube. So they are. If you think about saving money, and yeah, there are ways that you can do make a device by yourself. So in general, I mean, you can homeowner can buy or make a tick tube themselves, but the efficacy again, there are limited study on how effective the tick tube may help reduce the deer tick population. Next slide, please. The second tick control products is the bait box, which was originally developed by CDC and is licensed to a commercial company in Connecticut, TickLick Technology Corporation. And this all from their website. The idea is, you use the bait box. Bait box can lead to reduce the nympho population in the environment and reduce the number of infected ticks. Basically, the diagram showing how it works. When mice, a mouse enter and exits the bait box to reach the bait, they make contact with a wick on the top. So basically, a pesticide treated wick. I think the fipronil is the chemical pesticide. The same one used for control ticks on pets, dog and cat. A very small volume, a very small concentration. So this is how animal getting treated. Next slide, please. So again, over last some years, there are a number of publications published by CDC authors and researchers in New Jersey, particularly. So all study showing a highly positive result in terms of reducing host-seeking nymphs, number of ticks feeding on mice, even the infection rate of questing ticks, feeding ticks, and mouse infection rate. So overall, have been consistent and positive. Next slide. This new publication came out from Connecticut by Dr. Scott Williams and Kirby Stafford. What they did, they tested the compound use the bait box and Metafit2. Metafit2 is entomophagus fungi products. It's sprayed to the grass. So they compare the treatment combination of bait box and Metafit2 with the deer exclusion and other, everything combined. So basically, they show the combined use the bait box and the Metafit2 has been very effective. The table shown here. The graph showing is the way they gauge the efficacy by the positive encountered with the infected nymphs in the nymph season, May through July. So the conclusion is basically yes, you use both the bait box and Metafit2 can significantly reduce your encounter with an infected tick, therefore reduce the chance you get Lyme disease. Next slide, please. Okay, now this result from the New Jersey study I mentioned. Although the tick tube did not show that promising, but bait box demonstrate 80% efficacy in terms of reducing questing tick population. So again, this is consistent with the previous study, demonstrate the effectiveness of the bait box. Next slide, please.
All right, we do have a few questions here. Abraham Ames said, can the permethrin on the cotton and tick tubes rub off on the mice and thereby affecting the cats who predate on them? And I have a similar question too, because I heard permethrin is benign pretty much for us, but not good for cats. So if you have...
Yeah, permethrin is not, that's why we do not apply permethrin to our pets. But let's see, Yeah, cotton ball, you know, is treated with 7.4% permethrin. After dried, you know, when mice bring cotton ball to a nest, they pick up the element, the permethrin from the cotton ball on their hair, you know. I think it's a very small quantity. The permethrin getting on mice. Permethrin is a potent parasite, so even small amount will kill the immature tick attached to mice. But I do not think it's a large quantity transfer the chemical from a cotton ball to mice. And when the pet, you know, eat mice and you know, get how severe they're getting infected. My personal feeling, I do not think that this should be a major issue.
Okay, great, thank you. Mark Lesher asked, if the tick tubes get wet and moldy, etc., is this pesticide still effective?
Well, a good question. So hopefully, I mean, I'm not sure how after deployment they put the tick tube out, and hopefully, very quickly the animal can find the cotton and bring back the nest. So yes, if the cotton ball getting dirty, and that should affect the efficacy, you know, because it's all based on contact. If the surface are a lot of debris and dirt, it affects how the pesticide transfer from cotton ball to animal.
Yep, great, thank you. Nancy Cosmano from our office said she thinks it's illegal in New York to make your own tick tubes. Do you know if it's illegal in any states?
I don't know it's legal. I did read something from the New York State Extension Service. I read this, the entomologist there suggests you should not make a tick tube by yourself. You know, the safety issue is not registered to be used by homeowner this way. So it's a tricky question. I guess you know, people still probably do it, but legal or not is a question.
Okay, all right. So we don't know the answer to that one. Maybe we can find out. So, all right. And Mark Lesher had a couple of questions about the bait box, and I actually think one was answered in your presentation, but I'll you rattle off the name again. He said, what is the pesticide that's used in the bait box? And if the mice are eating the bait containing the fipronil, how is it killing the ticks on the outside of the body?
Yeah, good question. It's a topical treatment. Just like you buy the pet products apply to on the back your dog or cat. So fipronil is a chemical is absorbed pretty well to fat, you know, hair material. It's a stay on the top layer of the skin, I'll say. It's not a systemic use, but it's a stay on the skin and hair for a long time, and will take a feeding. When taken on the mice, you know, it's attached to mice. It's making direct contact with the fipronil. This is how they get take the chemical and they get killed.
All right, thank you. Jill Auerbach said the cost of TCS and Meth 52 is too much for the average homeowner. Do you have any comments about that?
Yes, so that's a major issue. Why there's a product available, but it's nothing except the tick tube. You know, our homeowners are buying tick tube, but the bait box and other products just too expensive. I think a bait box about $21, $23 a piece. So I think the price is a limiting factor for each widespread use.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to Michelle's question. We'll take one more in this break. Javid Kashifi says, since the treatment area of the home in comparison to the infested area in nature is very small, how frequently should we treat homes?
Well, you're right. The take out everywhere to reduce the population. You want to have a larger scale trial or community-based efforts. But for the individual homeowner, protect you, you still can do it to, whatever you do, pesticide spray or host targeted like tick tube. Anything you can do can reduce the question tick number or population on your property, the yard, probably the edge of the yard to reduce the tick numbers, reduce the chance you encounter a tick. That would help you, at least for you, for your family. It should provide certain protection.
Great, lovely. And we'll come back to the other questions and comments. Nancy Cosmano's put in a link from a blog about homemade tick tubes. So if anyone's interested in that in the Q&A, that's right there. All right, so let's move on and with the presentation.
Okay, as I mentioned, we have a USDA project, 5-year project in Howard County, runs from 2016 through 2021. So the idea is to, because as I mentioned, there are study in the past testing individual products, 4-poster, bait box, metafit to as the individual tools are available. But the idea is for IPM, how can we have have a holistic approach by combine all these tools available to us to see if we can achieve better control in a larger scale, not only in a home side, how about in the community level. So that's the idea for the area-wide tick control project at the USDA. So we do use bait box and metafit to also the 4-poster. This is just to show the deployment, the homes, one of the locations. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, so again, we have 7 locations. Previous one. You're a little too fast. Okay, go back for one slide.
Hold on, it's giving me a hard time making you go back. For some reason, there we go.
Okay, good, got it.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is just our study design. We have 7 study sites. We tested 3 different combinations. Each has 2 locations. We have 1 untreated location. Again, that's just we are in year 4 treatment, year 4 5-year project. So we are still collecting and adding the data. So hopefully by this time next year, we have a complete data set to analyze, finish analyze, and have some conclusion we can reach. Next slide, please. Yeah, this slide I want to show you some preliminary data collected from 2017 and 18, and the right column here, I mean the bars, is just the untreated site. You can see the top figure showing the percentage promiscuous infected with exotic immature stages. You can see there are increased from 17 to 19 years, 27 to 19, 18 in the untreated side, but all the treated location, we see a significant decrease. Same with the tick load, number of ticks we can find on mice. So we, from 2 out of the 3 treatment type, we found a decrease. Anyway, this is incomplete data, but it's just a good indication the treatment we do might be working. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. I want to just talk briefly about the new products is being developed at the US Biologic, which is the it's an antibiotic vaccine developed as oral bait to feed to white foot mice and to block the pathogen transmission. So the figure here on top is showing a dispenser automatic kind of rotate each day and release a certain pellet there. So Kirby and Scott did some study for the company, and they're showing 90% mice in the wild actually take the bait. They use a fluorescent dye, demonstrate put the device. They're all use hand distribution. Animal do pick up the bait 90% time. Next slide, please. This is the result of the paper they just published this year showing actual treatment. The field study, 2-year study showing distribution of the vaccine pellet led to 77% reduction of the infected larvae. Basically, they try to block the transmission, pathogen transmission when larval stage feeding on mice pick up pathogen. So they test the percentage, the bird positive larvae. They found the treated RTV treated group have a 70% reduction in that category. So this is promising. The company is still working with to register the products through USDA and FDA. So hopefully one day it will become commercially available. Next slide, please. Now, white-tailed deer. In the last decade or so, there has been tremendous increase of deer population in many parts of the country, and people love deer. By looking at them, which is a beautiful animal, but it causes a lot of problem. There are a lot of human-deer conflict. There are more accidents on the road, damage to agriculture, to a garden. But our major concern is deer as a host of the blacklegged tick. More deer, more ticks, more Lyme disease. How can we control ticks feeding on deer? Next slide, please. Well, indeed, there are studies indicating there are direct correlation between deer population density and the nympho stage of the blacklegged tick population density, and also the number of Lyme disease cases reported. This study was done in Connecticut. They analyzed like a 14-year data. They also implemented the managed hunt to reduce the deer population dramatically. What they found, if you can reduce deer population to below 5 deer per square kilometer, you can significantly reduce both the cresting deer tick nymphs by 70%. Also by the 80% in terms of the number of Lyme disease reported in the community. So this is pretty good, strong evidence. If you can deer population, you do can reduce the tick population. Also, consequentially, the Lyme disease case. But this is more complex. People love animal and they're hunting hunters. They didn't like this idea. So definitely it's a more social than scientific question. Next slide, please. This is what I found from the Humane Society of the United States. They talk about Lyme disease issue, that, how deer play a role, in human ticks. Of course, there is all about animal right. Their conclusion is killing deer will not reduce the risk of Lyme disease for people. So again, it's a social issue. It's more complex than just a scientific looking ecology disease issue. But next slide, please. On their website, they do recommend the alternative way to control ticks, which mentioned about the host targeted tick control for poster and tick tube. So this is a good thing. At least we can focus on what we can do. Can provide a recommendation or scientific data to make a recommendation to improve tick control situation in the US. Next slide, please. Well, the four-poster device, a lot of you know this products. It has been around for some years. It was developed by USDA ARS scientist, Dr. Matt Pond, by the US Livestock Insect Research Lab in Kerrville, Texas. So you can see the prototype in metal. That's when the initially develop the products, test the animal use. Indeed, you can see the fluorescent dye getting on the neck and the head, the deer. Here, this commercial products licensed to C.R. Daniels in Maryland. Now it's a commercial available for a while, I guess. So initial study demonstrated really working. You can see the region without four-poster heavy infestation tick on deer, and at the reach study site with the four-poster, it's basically clean up the animal. Next slide, please. So USDA ran a 5-year Northeast tick control project from 1997 to 2002. And basically to test and validate the utility for poster. The study was done in 5 states: Connecticut, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Rhode Island. The result came out published in a journal, special issue in 2009. Next slide, please. Data out from New Jersey and Maryland were highly positive. Provide 80–90% control, both the deer tick and long-short tick. The result from Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, a little bit complex, but overall it does show, 50–70% control. But it does show the complexity of using for poster when there are alternative food source, for example, acorn. The animal may not approach or use for frequently as we wished, and this affects the efficacy. So they also analyzed overall, say, across the 5 study sites, and overall, it does provide a decent control of ticks. Also reduce, just we are talking about is the infected nymphs really transmit Lyme disease to people. So the study indicates the overall it leads to a 60–67% reduction in terms of our chance to encounter infected nymphs. So this is highly positive. Next slide, please. Well, since that time, I looked at the literature. There have been 3 studies to further analyze, evaluate the device. One was in Cape Cod, including a couple islands nearby, and and one in community retirement community in Tennessee, and most recently counties. I think a CDC supported program in Fairfax County, Virginia. The results were kind of disappointing. They found little effect in terms of reducing tick population. In Tennessee, mostly the long-short tick, they studied. Yeah, some cases, for example, in Fairfax County, they found even some environmental issue, and also they saw increase of deer population after 3 years use of fall poacher. So yeah, definitely from my limited last couple of years, the work I did in Maryland, we do realize yes, the fall poacher have some issue. Next slide, please. Yeah, so deer are the target animal, but we often see a non-target animal access use, raccoon, the squirrels, they eat corn from a fall poacher. Sometimes the damage by squirrels, they can get inside the storage bin here, collect out all the corns. Also, there's a design issue. The post is supposed to return to upright position, but a lot of time, I'll see probably 40–15% time, the are not returning to the position, upright position. So here can still feed, but they may not get treated. So this may explain some of the less desired efficacy our people see. Also, we have observed the change in animal behavior around the fall poacher. When they're the dominant animal, it will try to keep other from using access the corn from a fall poacher. So yes, definitely there are some issues with fall poacher, but our most concern is amount of corn we use. So there are a lot of corn. From all the study, you feed a lot of corn to wildlife, to deer. Even it's effective in killing ticks, but the amount of calorie you put in the system, will help enhance the reproduction, probably increase the deer population. It's kind of counterproductive. On one hand, we try to reduce the tick population. We may or may not achieve that. But at the same time, we put so much corn there. We help increase the deer population. So we try to find a way to get around this. Next slide, please. So we thought about not using corn with other attractant. For example, the mineral base, because we know in nature, deer take their mineral salt supplement from the environment. So we have come up with an idea to use the mineral-based salt block to attract the deer. The same idea as the fall poacher is a passive treatment. So we built a wooden prototype initially. We run some tests put outside. You can see, yeah, we do see animal use. We see access by raccoon and the squirrels. We see during a 10-day, 9-day test, we saw 63 visits by deer, 13 visits by squirrel, 3 by raccoon. And in this case, remember what I mentioned, how squirrel and the raccoon mess up the fall poacher, and they're not getting treated. What we found the actually squirrel, raccoons, sometimes they play on the roller. So in this case, they are not messing up our system. At the same time, they may get treated. They are hosts for ticks and possibly for the pathogen too. So as a secondary host that they can get treated at the same time. So this additional benefit. Next slide, please. So we have filed the patent application last year, and this year we are building a new version a metal prototype. We intend to have a project in Montgomery County. Hopefully, at the end of this year, the 2-year study, basically we want to evaluate, put the device out there, a larger scale, multiple site, to study how deer and other animals are there interact with the device. And also we will test a different bait blocks, the salt mineral block, to see which part of the year, which season, what are their preferred block. So as attractant. So once we have sufficient data showing the pretty decent access by deer and other animals, we can go on to run a real control project and put the pesticide on the roller. So this will be ongoing. Next slide, please. So in summary, we have a limited number of host targeted tick control tools or commercial products available, but none have achieved widespread use. I think except the tick tube might be, homeowner can buy directly, but the bait box, and the full poster, all the work are limited to research, run trial by universities, USDA, and state agencies. So has not been used widely. So pro and cons for each one. Tick tubes, easy to use, relatively inexpensive. If you make the tick tube yourself, it costs very little money. But the result, the efficacy, there's a contradictory result. So I guess we need more research to see one either work or not work. So more work needs to be done. Beta box, all the study showing that the beta box has been very effective in reducing tick population, reducing pathogen infection, but the problem is the cost. It's expensive, and each unit costs about $20, $20+ dollars, and it also requires the service by pest control professionals. Same with the full poster. Each unit costs $500–600 to start with, and although the USDA project early study showing is effective, recent study showing some complication. There are certain things we can explain why it's not working. Maybe not a sufficient number device was put out there, or the maintenance issue. So certain things we can explain. But again, it's a cost. It also had to be managed, serviced by pest control professionals. So again, I mentioned about the calorie we put out. We are talking about a 20,000 pound corn for 20 units over 3 years. Just imagine 20,000 pound corn put out there. So, well, there's a few new treatment devices I mentioned in development, but do not expect anyone to be a silver bullet, because this complex system, deer tick ecosystem, life cycle, whatever, just we do not expect a silver bullet. But any new products we can help solve, improve our control to increase the control efficacy. That's all welcoming. So as I mentioned, the study to test the validated IPM strategy are in progress. In addition to USDA study, I know there's a major project in the state of New York, also one in the state of Connecticut. So there are also, I think, all started in 2016. So we do realize the importance of IPM, just to combine, use whatever technology tool we have. to achieve better control. And come up recommendation we can give to homeowners, to communities. So again, we, in comparison to mosquito control efforts, we have in the country, many states, you have the mosquito control district supported by tax money from local government. But when it comes to tick control, there are no such structure, infrastructure, organization, no fund available for community-based tick IPM. So that's the situation where we are. It's a very complex system, very few tick control tools available. So it's has been a tremendous challenge to moving forward to mitigate the deer tick issue, Lyme disease issue. That's the situation we're facing. Next slide. Well, I want to thank all team members on the USDA ARS area-wide tick management project. We're working hard last 3 or 4 years. Also, the collaborator and the cooperators on the project. It's a major effort. The community in Howard County, also the Howard County government gave us a tremendous support. Thanks. Thank you for your attention.
Great. Lovely, thank you. And we have lots of good questions. We have 2 questions about resistance, so I'm going to start with those. So Blake Dinius said, for these host-targeted approaches, most of the compounds used are pyrethroids. What are your thoughts on pesticide resistance? And Carol Delaney has a similar question. Will ticks become resistant to permethrin or other pesticide products?
Well, theoretically speaking, if any pest population, if they were subject to repeated treatment, there is a chance for resistant development. However, I spent 13, 14 years working on cattle tick in Texas. You know, curbside resistance has been a tremendous issue. Cattle tick is one host tick. Each year there are multiple generations. So for the cattle ranchers in Mexico, in South America, in Australia, they have many rounds of chemical treatment. So that's ideal situation for resistant development. But when it comes to deer ticks, even long-star ticks, we have different situation. It's multiple hosts, multiple stages, take multiple years to develop. So just imagine a host-based treatment, a tick tube or bait box. You are only exposed to tick for a couple of months. That's one particular stage of one generation. So it's a limited exposure for the tick. So the chance for resistant development is, in my opinion, is minimal. So I always, I'm keen, about the resistance. When I first come to Maryland, I want to find a way to find are there any resistant population I can think of or can collect? Unless you have a region, have a place, you have intensive treatment for, round after round for many years, there might be a chance. But in general, I do not see a major risk for resistant development at now.
All right, thank you. Michelle Niedermeyer said, are there known secondary impacts on non-target species related to the tick tubes and cotton balls being strewn about the outdoor environment?
Yeah, that's always an issue. If you treat mice, put a chemical on mice, mice are the prey for many predators. Eagles, birds, other animal prey on mice. So there is a concern for toxicity to other animals. So it's a good question. Again, just given the small amount chemicals 0.1% fipronil when the mice are making a little bit of contact. So the quantity is very small. So again, the risk, I'm always thinking, compare the wildlife situation with agriculture production system, cattle. Put a lot of chemicals on cattle. You have a resistant situation, but human consuming meat. So for wildlife, yes, there's a concern. I believe when the products register with the EPA, they probably have really looked into the issue. What the possibility for the toxicity to other non-target in the wild.
Okay, and there's a related question, and probably a simple answer to this one too, is Sam Bricks asked, what's the effect on the rodents themselves?
Yeah, rodent, again, how that any chemical, if getting repeated treatment, how that affecting rodent physiology, biology, reproduction. So it's a good question. How often, if you have a bait box there, how often the animal go there, take a bait. You get in their lifetime, in a couple of months, or at least in a couple of months of the season, you put there, let's see, the bait box is supposed to be there for 3 months. So at one particular location, so animal will go there repeated for bait. So get a repeated dose of a chemical. So how that accumulate treatment affect the animal? It's a good question. I had no answer.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. Mark Lesher also made a comment that if homemade tick tubes are being distributed, it's a FIFRA violation. I had to look up FIFRA, you probably wouldn't, but Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act of 1910. So thank you, Mark, for adding that in. All right, so we have a few more questions and comments. An anonymous attendee said, do any states have Lyme disease monitoring programs like many do with mosquito-borne diseases like West Nile and EEE?
Well, Lyme disease are typically reported through our medical system, hospital, medical clinic, through doctor to CDC. State, I think state public health department, even county public health department, they must have a database. So yeah, somebody have the data.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mark Lesher asked, what pesticide is being used in the 4-poster bait stations?
4-poster, again, is a permethrin. It's a 10% permethrin.
Okay. All right, and Jill Auerbach had 3 questions. What do you think about newt ketone?
Yeah, Nixon definitely is a new addition, new compound, a new mode of action. From the resistance management perspective, it's really good to have something new. I mentioned, we use the permethrin on 4-poster. The tick tube use permethrin, you get, double dose larvae and adult tick are if both treated with the permethrin, that increase your chance for resistance. But the nicotine is a different mode of action, and it can be both repellent and toxic. And so, yeah, it's good to have. I mean, the potential. I think my understanding is registered for the compound, but actual products, what kind of formulation the private entity might be making, registering as a repellent, as a toxic, and as a pesticide. How that can be used as a spray to your backyard, or potentially, yeah, it can be used with the host targeted device. For example, 4-poster, the TickLick. I need to look into that. Definitely.
Great. All right. Thank you. Another question from Jill. In New York State, there's a concern about CWD from deer stations. Is this a concern for you?
Yes, New York State is the last one approved the use for poster. When Dr. Matt Pond worked on commercialized for poster device and registered all the states he want except New York State because you know the pesticide issue. I think last year finally the state of New York approved I guess approved the registration, but with the condition you had to put some fencing around for poster to limit non-targeted use, potentially, you know, the people getting access to that. So yeah, so if chronic waste disease, yes, it's a concern because any host targeted device attract deer to one location will increase the interaction among animals, spreading the disease. So that's the factor. Is a factor to consider.
All right, thank you. And then one last comment from Jill. She said, I understand that US Biologic may add other vaccines, including anti-tick, after their first product is approved, and that would be fantastic. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that. So.
Okay, the question, yes, would be nice to have one product contain both anti-Borrelia vaccine, anti-tick vaccine to give a double dose, you know, to kill the pathogen, kill the ticks. That's increase the efficacy in terms of blocking pathogen transmission. But so far, there are not such a effective anti-tick vaccine can move to that stage. I mean, commercialized. Either oral formulation delivered to mice. There are no such thing yet.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, thank you very much for answering all those questions so beautifully. And we have some final questions for you. It's a poll with some new questions, some similar questions from before, and I'm just going to be quiet for a couple of minutes so that you can answer those questions and give us a sense of what you're walking away from this presentation. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everyone. So that's great. We've moved from to very knowledgeable for most people that are on this call about managing ticks with host targeted technologies. And most people think that the host targeted tick control products could work, especially for the bait box. And if they would intend to buy ticks tubes, most people say no, they're not likely to work. And do you intend to hire a pest control professional? The answer was 25% said yes, and 56% said no, it was too expensive, and 20% not likely to work. Everyone would support community-based tick control in their area, and the preference for which organization would do that would be the local government / the public health department. And most people, 32% said they were extremely likely or very likely to increase their use of IPM as a result of this webinar, which is warms the cockles of our hearts here at the Northeast IPM Center. So, all right, so I have just a couple more things to share with you. We issue small grants for IPM in the Northeast, and actually Andrew Lee has won one of those grants for some of his research, and the RFA is out, and our deadline is November 12th, and there's a link here on your screen that shows you the RFA, and or if you go to our website, it's easy to find. If you look under grants, you'll find our RFA. If you have any questions about the RFA or the application, feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to answer the question or find an answer if I don't know it myself. We also have a webinar coming up on October the 5th to answer your questions about the RFA. So if you are interested, I suggest you download it today, read it through, and come to the webinar on the 5th. Also, if there's a project that you're interested in working on and need a researcher to work on it with, or if you are just looking for colleagues in the Northeast, please go to our website and complete the Find a Colleague information. And this is our effort to try and increase collaboration across states and across fields in IPM. And with that, we have one last webinar coming up. Kirby Stafford, who started our series back in the spring, is ending it, which feels like a nice bookending. And he's going to be talking about leaf litter and snow removal, which is perfect timing for those of us in the Northeast. And that's going to be on October the 7th. And you can find details. If you want to attend that webinar, you need to register for it separately, because registering for one does not register you for all of them. And you can find a link to that on our website as well. The recording will be available in about a week, and I'll send you an email with that. And finally, I just want to acknowledge and thank our funder, USDA and NIFA. Our funding comes from USDA for the Northeast IPM Center. And we're grateful for the funding that is your tax dollars at work. And thank you very much for that. So Dr. Lee, thank you for your time, your attention, all the work that has gone into this presentation, not only today and the last couple of weeks, but your career and your dedication, and I'm sure late nights for many hours as you've had your studies and through your work. And thank you for your dedication to us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I will conclude the webinar, and thank you for your attendance, and we look forward to seeing you again. Okay. Bye-bye.